welcome to Talking Sports by the Lake. Welcome back to the Lake House. I have a very special guest today. But I know the intro is different, so I just want to give you guys a chance for those who have been reaching out to know that this is not our new um, this is not our new intro. This is not our new intro. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties, but we are doing off-season stuff. So in the off-season, I just want to give a chance for other content creators, other sports fans to come on the show as we normally do, to talk about the transition that teams are making in this final point after the Super Bowl. So today, I have a very special guest, Dom C. from Green Bean Sports Fan. I probably messed that up. I'm a little nervous here, but I will bring him in so he can tell everybody where he's from and get the show started.
What's up,
What's
Evan?
up, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's going on, everyone? Dom C from Green Bean Jets fan. I'm the lead NFL draft analyst and head writer for the site. So I'm glad to be here talking to you, man.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful to have you on. Thank you for working with schedules to make sure that everything got together so we were able to do this.
Yeah, no doubt.
One last thing, everybody's going to see, yes, I have the 13 on my jersey. I still wear my Odell jersey. I blame Baker. It is what it is. But we just had some things go on as coaches are being hired here in Cleveland. Some guys are being let go, and we have new coaches coming in places like Denver, and for new coaches what was it? The Arizona Cardinals picking up a guy from the Eagles. And while all this was happening, it kind of felt like this year's Senior Bowl fell under the radar.
Yeah.
I know last year that all the top quarterbacks were there. This year it wasn't. For me personally, I appreciate that just because it gives a chance for the guys who don't get the spotlight on them a lot to prove that they belong and have a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So as a Jets fan, who are some of the guys that stood out for you at the Senior Bowl?
Well, first off, I mean, the Senior Bowl, if you haven't had a chance to be there or experience it, I highly recommend it, man. They do an awesome job. They're really, really forthcoming, and they want the guys in the media and the content creation to, kind of be involved. You're right up there. You're on the sidelines, with the players, with the coaches, with the scouts, with tons of people. So it's an awesome experience. So, I went there. Obviously, the Jets have some needs. So I went there with an agenda, certain, positional groups that I wanted to check out. But overall, the whole thing was like really, really overwhelming. And man, you got I got some great time. I got great interviews. I got great film with a bunch of people. But some of the guys that really stood out to me, first off was, DeJuan Jones, the right tackle from Ohio State. The guy's just a mountain of a man. I watched him on film and, before leading into that. And he didn't look as big on film as he does in person. I mean, he's 6'8", every bit of 6'8", 355 pounds, super strong, light on his feet, moves good laterally. And there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that lined up against him one-on-one that beat him. I mean, he really took the spotlight on Tuesday's practice. They break it up into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're off on Friday, and then they have the game on Saturday. So Tuesday's practice was really about DeJuan Jones. He's the guy who kind of rose to the occasion. There was also another, a surprising receiver out of BYU. His name's Puka Nacua. He was another guy who really shined on Tuesday. He was bigger than I thought. He was probably about 6'1", 200 pounds solid, ran crisp routes, showed, suddenness off the line, was able to get off press, gain separation off of his breaks. Just, he caught everything that was thrown his way. He was another guy on Tuesday that really stood out. Those are the two guys for the most part on Tuesday that caught my eye. I was kind of like starstruck by the whole thing. So I really just focused on the guys that rose to the top on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday was a whole different ball game because I felt a little bit more comfortable, and I really got to peruse the field and get some good, get some good eyes on some, some good matchups they had. Really, I mean, the offensive line went, one-on-ones with the defensive line. The wide receivers went one-on-ones with the cornerbacks. The linebackers went one-on-one with the running backs. So, I mean, there was so many good guys from that, from that Wednesday practice. I mean, the guys that to me that stood out on Wednesday, Tank Dell, wide receiver out of Houston, small guy, 5'8", 170 pounds. Think of what's a good comp for him? Man, he's like a jitterbug, dude. I can't even think of.
I got one for you. An explosive Tutu Atwell.
Much better. Yeah, that's exactly. Everyone's going to kind of comp him to Tutu Atwell because of the size, and I think he was like, so much an elevated version of Tutu Atwell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like he broke. He was just you put him in space. You put the ball in his hands in space, and he was just everywhere. No one could touch him, man. And he's another guy who very, very impressive. Didn't drop a thing. Another guy of the wide receivers that really caught my eye. Trey Tucker, another small slot wide receiver out of the University of Cincinnati. He's a little bit bigger. He's about 5'10", 190 pounds. Again, great speed. Great straight line speed. He's a guy that's going to probably run under. He's going to run a sub 4.3. He's probably one of the fastest guys at the Senior Bowl. Again, sudden, athletic, in and out, created separation. He could do it, in the slot, and he did it, on the outside, on the boundaries. So he was a guy that really impressed me. Those wide receivers really stood out to me. Jaden Reed, another wide receiver out of Michigan State, had a great week at camp. I think he was actually voted by his peers as the practice player out of that positional group. And then on top of that, you had, the more linemen, more defensive linemen that, those one-on-one battles are really something to see live, man. Those guys just go at it. There's, Darnell Wright, big right tackle out of Tennessee. He's a guy who stands about 6'5", 330, but he moves like he's about 230 pounds, strong hands, strong punch, good hand placement. He fought hard all week long. John Michael Schmitz, center out of Minnesota, is another guy who really stood out all week. He's got a nasty streak in him, good anchor. No one could get by him one-on-one. I mean, he won just about every single one-on-one rep that he had. Those are just some of the standouts that I had in mind. You with me, Evan? I think you froze. So while you're frozen, I'll keep talking about some of the prospects.
You actually went on to name two guys that I was. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you're freezing up on me, Evan.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, take your time, dude.
Having some technical difficulties in my studio, so I will just come upstairs for this one. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Much better.
All right, so you named two guys that I was actually looking at myself, and that was Schmitz, the center. I felt like he was in the top 2 or 3 guys, maybe even number 1, depending on who you're asking, before the Senior Bowl. And then after the Senior Bowl, it really became that he was the number 1 guy in my eyes. I felt like he won his position chart for as far as centers go. Yeah. Being able to dominate guys. I heard a story on PFF that he blocked somebody 10, 15 yards down the field, which ended up causing a little bit of a scuffle. He ended up earning the opportunity to be named captain due to these practices. So to be able to come in there with a new group of guys, show your work ethic, and be able to not only prove your draft stock, but also be named a captain around guys you're only around for a week, spoke a lot.
Yeah, he and like you said, man, he probably came in and most whoever you read or whoever you talked to would kind of put him in that mid to lower second round tier as a prospect. He is a little bit older. He's 24 years old. He's a 6-year senior. But he just showed up, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's earned his way right up into the end of the first round. I mean, there's teams that, Seattle comes to mind. They could use a center. Cincinnati's comes to mind. Guys that, that just need to fortify that middle of the interior of the offensive line. Like Schmitz is a good fit. And the beautiful thing about him is, he wins with, he's agile. He's like a cat. And he's strong as an ox. So he can fit any scheme, whether it be, a zone blocking scheme, power gap style running scheme. He can fit anything. There was one run in particular with Schmitz, I think, kind of what you were alluding to, where Tajay Spears, a running back from Tulane, broke it to the outside, and Schmitz got down real quick on the defensive tackle, knocked him out of the way, got out into space, led for Tajay Spears at the second level, blocked the middle linebacker, and then ran step for step with Tajay Spears and got his hands on the safety. He literally took 3 guys single-handedly out of the play for the run. I mean, it was something special. It's something special, and he's a player, man. He's a player.
Definitely. I like to hear that. I was hoping it was wishful thinking for us with the Browns only having the 13th pick in the second round. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that somehow he would fall, he would slide. And not to say that we really need a center, but it would be nice to have him, because when you have Ethan Posich come in at the week 3, week 4, you lose Nick Harris, who's been in the system first game in the preseason, and then you lose Dalton Deaton before the second game of the preseason. With those questions and the money that we've spent on this offensive line, and now we're picking up Jedrick Wells' 5th-year contract, it was kind of like, where's the cheap piece where we can pick up some high-value talent that might be able to help us later on? Then it became Darnell Wright, the right tackle, I believe, out of Tennessee. I was able to get myself on some tape. He's able to move. I like his footwork a lot. The only thing that I saw, and you please tell me if I'm wrong, it seemed like during some of the practices he had issues anchoring when it came to tight end on his side, a wide angle for the defensive end. It seemed like he had a little trouble anchoring there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily saw any reps where he had problem anchoring. He definitely, he didn't win every single rep. That he struggled a lot with speed from the outside. Guys that set up, on that wide 9 formation, really far outside the shoulder of the tackle. Some guys that were fast. Will McDonald from Iowa State was one. Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame was another that they got a step on him and they beat him crisp outside. But as far for the middle, I'm not saying that you're wrong. It's just I don't remember any reps necessarily. Like I think he handled his business with anything inside that tackle box, from that 5 tech on his outside shoulder all the way down to the 3 technique defensive tackles. Like he cleaned house. He's a big guy, man. He's big. He's long. And he's a dog when he blocks. You know what I mean? He finishes his blocks. He plays with tenacity. He's a guy that I really like. Like I said, talking for you and the Cleveland Browns, I know you're spending money on Jedrick Willis. I know you got Jack Conklin still under contract. So, a pipeline guy like that would be ideal. Whether he's there for you at the 13th pick in the second round, that's still yet to be determined. So.
Absolutely. But, my next question was going to be corner, because we have a certain situation right now with corners where we have Greg Newsome, who has been moved to the inside with our last defensive coordinator. He definitely doesn't want to play there, but now we have a guy like Martin Emerson, who's a big, strong corner that's on the outside. We've just paid Denzel Ward a large extension. So now the question then becomes, what are we going to do at that spot? Are we going to alternate guys? Did you see anybody that you felt would be that's a standout in this upcoming draft at the slot position?
Well, what I liked about what they did at Senior Bowl is that they rotated the guys, whether they played just pure boundary or outside corner in college, and really that's what they're going to play in the pros. They rotated them all around. So the guys played on the outside, they played in the slot, even the safeties. A lot of the safeties rotated from playing in the box and playing deep middle and so on and so forth. So I liked that the coaching staffs rotated these guys and put them in different positions. And to me, the biggest standout at the Senior Bowl was Tyreek Stevenson. He's a cornerback out of Miami, lightning quick. He's got buttery hips. He can open. He can turn his hips and run real quick. He was in on so many plays. Just like the wide receivers couldn't break free from him. So he stays in that hip pocket. He's a technician. He stays in that hip pocket. He's got long arms, so he's able to get in the way or deflect a lot. He was able to get in the way and deflect a lot of passes. He was a guy that, at the cornerback position that really stood out to me. He's got that, he's a second round pick, in my opinion.
Definitely. I was a fan of his going into the season. I had him, Joey Porter, and Denzel Burke, but I realized that Denzel Burke was going to come out next year. Yeah, which actually I think is a good thing for him. But him and Joey Porter were two of the guys that I really was looking at when able to watch up close, doing some small traveling during the college season.
Yeah. There was another guy too. I don't mean to cut you off, but while I was thinking about it, who I think is probably going to be slot specific at the next level, Riley Moss out of Iowa. He's a smaller guy, maybe about 5'9", but he's solid, muscular, and I thought he did a real good job with those shifty, those Trey Tuckers and the Tank Dells of the world, those really shifty slot-centric receivers. He did a good job and covered. He had some trouble with the bigger guys. He had some trouble, on those contested catches when he was outside. On those contested catches, the bigger guys got the best of him because he's only about 5'10". He's got a short, he's got shorter arms, so his catch radius isn't that big. So, I think he's a guy that I think is going to find a home as a nickel corner or a slot corner at the NFL.
Absolutely. Before we transition to other parts of the offseason, there was a defensive tackle, and his name is escaping my mind right now. I think it's Benton.
Yeah,
he went to the University of Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was the dog, man. One of the defensive tackles that really impressed me. Full disclosure, I didn't know or I didn't do a lot of work on him leading up to the Senior Bowl, but he stood out. He has a myriad, very, very robust set of skills of pass rush skills. Like he's not just like a bull rush guy and go. He's got he's got quick feet, good get off, strong hands. Uses his hands very well. Gets his hands on the offense guy. Snatches and goes and slips a lot. He's a guy that I think made some money in the Senior Bowl, because no one was really talking about him all that much. But at 6'3", 6'4", 305 pounds, he's big enough to play the nose or play in that one tech and really stuff the run as what he did in college. But he's also got that array of different pass skills that you can put him in pass sets, in a 3 technique or on inside shade of the tackle, and he can go and get at the quarterback. Yeah, Keanu Benton looks real good.
Absolutely. And the reason I bring him up before we transition, I fell in love with Perion Winfrey last year.
Yeah.
Because he was a guy who was put over the center, was asked to do one thing, got to the Senior Bowl, and then wins the Senior Bowl MVP as a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Tore it up all week. So then my question then becomes, when you look at pass rushers and run stoppers for the Senior Bowl, the vast change that they go through from what they've been running for 3 to 4 years at these universities.
Yeah.
Is it really a flash in the pan type of thing, or is it just that the competition they're going against, the offensive linemen don't have that much chemistry, so they have a little bit of a chance to show some talent without much resistance?
Yeah, so it's a unique situation, and it's a good question because, you got to remember also this happened in February or the end of January, early February. Some of these guys hadn't put pads on for 6-8 weeks, so they've been kind of in chill mode. Some of them have been training and getting ready for this, hitting the weight room, getting their agility up, so on and so forth. But a lot of the guys, as you talk to them, they said no. I haven't put my pads on since the season in December. So it's been a while. I think the defensive line against the offensive line is always advantageous because they're going they're going to have that extra quick second to get off the ball. Same thing with they did the running backs, linebackers cover the running backs in pass drills, right? The running backs are always going to have an advantage because they're in motion. They know exactly what play is going on. The defense is a little flat-footed and just got to read, so they're always going to be a little disadvantageous. But those defensive linemen, the offensive line prospects that were there. I mean, there was so many good guys, so many guys that are going to hear their name called come draft time in April. So I don't want to say that I don't want to disrespect any of them, but the defensive line, I think, really stood out. Guys like Keanu Benton. Who else? Guys like Keon White, who's a defensive tackle, defensive end from Georgia Tech. He's another guy that was a dog. A lot of the edge rushers that were there. Foskey was really good. McDonald was really good from Iowa State. I mean, he was as fast as could be. He's a little smaller. He's going to be scheme specific. He's going to be a guy that can only probably stand up and be a pass rush specialist from 2 feet. I'm not comparing him to his play, but think like what Micah Parsons does in Dallas. That's what I think Will McDonald's going to do at the next level. But those defensive tackles, yeah, man. Like I said, there's so many good ones. So many good ones that your head's on a swivel, man, watching all these great players play.
Absolutely. So we're going to transition, and knowing that you're a Jets fan, I have a 2-part question.
Shoot.
One, how do you really feel about Zach Wilson? And secondly, what do you think about the media whirlwind of that's being told of them trying to wait for Aaron Rodgers, but having a really good relationship and really good interview with Derek Carr?
Yeah. So, after 2 years of Zach, I love the talent that he has, but it's clear that he just, he hasn't been able to put it together. Like I can't, as a Jets fan or any team fan, you watch your quarterback just completely struggle and really keep the offense or keep the team down. I was too optimistic coming into this year. He got hurt in the preseason and you kind of let that happen. He came back and he played great. He played great in Pittsburgh, for 2 quarters, the first quarter and the fourth quarter, but the second and third quarter was just like the same old Zach that we always, that us Jets fans are unfortunately always remember, missing, not feeling the pressure coming, trying to do too much, playing hero ball, missing the easy passes, the ones that he can, trying to force the ball. So at this point, it was clear that Zach needs to kind of step back, take some time, kind of quiet his head a little bit, because you can tell the athletic profile is there, man. He's a wonderful quarterback. He's got a live arm, he's mobile, but it's just not computing from his head down. You know what I mean? He tries to do too much. So probably after that second New England game, I had really I was willing to cash my check and say, let's see what else we got, and ultimately that's what the Jets did, and injuries led to us, struggling through the quarterback position. And ultimately that's what really cost us at the end of the season. People don't remember, we were 7-4 at one point, we ended up 7-10. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So the lack of quarterback really, killed our chances of breaking that playoff drought that we had. Now, the second part to your question, is it Aaron Rodgers or is it Derek Carr? Those are the names. Woody Johnson, our owner, has been very, very vocal, saying that he's going to do whatever it takes to upgrade the quarterback position. Our coaching staff, headed by Robert Saleh, has said we're going to do whatever it takes to upgrade the quarterback position. They're not giving up on Zach, but they know that they got a team that's really constituted with a lot of good young talent that was able to step in and play right away, on top of a lot of veterans and a second year of a defense that really came on. I mean, we were a top 4 defense overall in the league. So they got a championship level defense that's ready to win now. You got offensive weapons like Garrett Wilson, like Breece Hall when he comes back from his ACL injury, like Corey Davis. You got some pieces coming back on that offensive line that were hurt last year, and Elijah Vera Tucker at guard, Mekhi Becton at tackle. The pieces are there. The only thing that's missing is quarterback, and it's funny because they talk about the goings around Jets Twitter or the Jets content creations is if we had a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who could manage the game and not lose it, we would have won 10 games easy. You know what I mean? So I'm of the belief I think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers will instantly, if all things stay the same and the defense still plays at that high level and everyone comes back healthy and stays healthy, Aaron Rodgers can elevate the team to a real contender in the for a conference championship. However, the compensation that it's going to cost to get and that whole waiting game of like you put your eggs in that basket and it doesn't work, you might miss out on the boat. I think Derek Carr is the way that the Jets should go. And I really, really think, and I'm not saying this as a homer, as a fan, but I really think that that's a marriage that's just ready to happen. I think they're just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to officially say he's going back to Green Bay, and they're going to move quick on Carr.
Okay, absolutely. Because that was my biggest question as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, was how would he really deal with New York media? Because it seems like just for Green Bay media and national broadcasting media, he has somewhat of a vengeance or a slighted attitude towards them. Yeah. And it always made me wonder, if he were to go to a place that has a big media market, how would he respond? So, but as far as Derek Carr goes, my question, and since that would be your pick, my question for that would be, do you think the guys in the locker room would buy in?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, listen, Derek Carr, if he came in, he would step in and automatically, just with what he's done, what he's produced on the field over the past, 7 or 8 years that he's been playing, he would come in and probably be the second best quarterback our franchise has ever had. That says a lot. We haven't had a guy that's thrown. Put it this way, Evan, we haven't had a quarterback throw more than 11 touchdowns in 3 seasons. We haven't had a 4,000-yard quarterback in our history. Aaron Rodgers has done. Derek Carr has done that multiple times. He comes in and he's already probably the second best quarterback that's ever put on the Jets jersey. I'm not worried about him meshing with the team. And I hear what you're saying about the New York media in regards to Aaron Rodgers. I just think that I don't know if it's just New York media. It could be Cleveland. It could be Houston. It could be Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is about himself. Like he's a brand. He's going to do what Aaron Rodgers wants to do, no matter who or what says. I don't think the media thing is anything that necessarily needs to be a factor. It's more so like these kind of games. This is the second year in a row that Aaron Rodgers kind of left Green Bay hanging in the whims. So who knows if that's what he'll do next year. Say we trade for him and then he plays this year and it's good, and then next year he's going to say, "Oh, I don't know. Do I want to come back? Woe is me," so on and so forth. That whole drama stuff is, that all that crap can miss me for all I care.
So my last question for you before we end up getting out of here, I was really skeptical of your draft class last year, but in my opinion, it's probably turned out to be one of the better draft class and large draft class hauls in the last 5 years when you really think about it. Yeah. How did you feel at the time of the draft, and how do you feel now that the season is over?
So at the time of the draft, it was like a roller coaster of emotion, because I was dead set, and as most Jets fans were, with that number 4 pick that we had next year, that we would secure ourselves that edge, that defensive end that we have been coveting for years. Kayvon Thibodeau was the name that everyone was talking about. Kayvon Thibodeau was a prospect that I had fallen in love with. and everything that, as I perceived it, or as the media let on, is that it was a good marriage. It was a good fit. The interview process went well, so on and so forth. So when they picked Sauce Gardner at number 4, it's not that I thought Sauce Gardner was bad, but I was kind of hit with a little bit of emotion, like, man, we're gonna pass on that edge yet again, And then came 10, and I said, okay, there's still some good edges on the board. They're just they took the best player in Sauce Gardner. Now they're gonna take their edge at 10. Because there were still guys like Jermaine Johnson was still on the board, George Karlaftis was still on the board. 2 guys that Boye Mafe was still on the board. Those were 3 guys that I really thought were very, very good college prospects, and I thought would transition well to the NFL. And then they took Garrett Wilson, and I was completely floored. It's not that we didn't need a wide receiver, but I just thought that the presence of a defensive end, an edge rusher, was so much more important than adding another wide receiver. Again, thinking we can backfill that wide receiver spot in the 2nd or 3rd round. What are they doing? Then here we go. Joe Douglas, who's a great GM, does his business and is able to trade back up into the 1st round when Jermaine Johnson slips a little bit, and there's our edge. And it was at that point when he traded up that I knew that we hit a home run that draft class, And then we followed that up with Breece Hall, who's, an electric talent in the backfield. Later on in the draft, 4th round, we secured our pipeline tackle and Max Mitchell from the University of Louisiana, who I didn't expect to really see the field all that much. He was kind of one of those developmental guys, I thought, but, was kind of injuries, the injury bug hit, and he was kind of forced into action. And, he was really good. He wasn't all pro level, but he did better than I expected. He did a lot better than I expected, and we followed him up with a no-name, a guy. And like I said, I do draft content. That's what I do. And I can tell you, as a man, full disclosure, I did 0 work on Michael Clemens out of Texas A&M, the defensive end that we took in the 4th round. I had no idea who he was. And all right, he's another piece. He's another rotational piece, but he's a dog too, man. He's it was one of those draft classes that you have once every 20 years. Once every 30 years, you get lucky. And I think Joe Douglas hit on every aspect of it, and thank God, because he had something to show. Because when you have the number 2 overall pick like we did 2 years ago, and you miss on Zach Wilson, that's a miss that can set a franchise back.
Absolutely.
You know it well with Baker. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that all too well as a Browns fan.
Yeah. So listen, the draft class last year was like a home run. I'm hoping that he repeats it this year. We don't have nearly as many draft picks as we had in the past, so we're only going into April right now with 6. So I expect some wheeling and dealing, and Joe Douglas, our GM, to move back a little bit and gain some more draft capital, so on and so forth. And just, I trust him to make the right picks because he's done it so far.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. And I will say this, as a Browns fan, I'm absolutely jealous, especially being at the top of the draft for 2 years in a row with multiple picks all the way around, and to kind of watch the hype train lead us to a playoff game, and now we're starting to watch it crumble because Baker didn't work, and now there's rumors of owners in the way, or the GM and the coaches aren't getting along. And those are things that we've had for so long as Browns fans. I must say I'm a little bit jealous of what the Jets are doing. Well, but before we get out of here, I would like you to tell everybody again where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me. You can follow me on Twitter at DC_NY Jets. And like I said, I'm the NFL draft content creator for greenbeanjetsfan.com. YouTube page has well over 10,000 subscribers. We do a live show called the 10 o'clock mock every Monday night. And I also do a show with another Jets content creator called Jets Chaos on Sundays at 9 p.m. Which
I know Jets.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do a show on his channel every Sunday night at 9 where we break down draft prospects position by position. This coming Sunday we'll be talking about the edge rushers in this class. So
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to tune into that one. But
Yeah.
thank you for coming on. It was great to have you on. I hope we get to work together again soon.
Yeah, man.
And to everybody else, thank you for coming to the lake house. We're about to set sail, and we'll see you soon.